Yishai, I want to ask you a little bit about the way you grew up. And you mentioned to me, a long time ago when we first met, that your mother tongue is English. But on the other hand, you write, and your intellectual and spiritual world is in Hebrew. So I want to ask you a little bit about what's that like to live in multiple worlds, to use a Rav Shagar phrase, olamot sotrim, or and how does that interplay work? That you have this fluent English from your parents, that is, beitiut, it's your home, it's comfortable, it's secure, and on the other hand, your functional, spiritual, other language is Hebrew. You live in Eretz Israel. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about that dialogue inside of you.
Even though it's a personal question, it connects to the speaking about galutiyut, Eretz velo moledet, the chapters in it starts over here and also in Theology of Absence, and then goes also to the Yehudi shel HaKatzeh. I will make your question even more exact. I think in Hebrew. I dream in Hebrew. But my mother tongue is English. Not that it's more convenient for me to speak in English, but that was the language that was there first. That means that we're not speaking here about multiply worlds where you know how to act in Hebrew, you're good in it, you know how to express yourself well, you can write well, but in the other world, you think in English, you dream in English, and so on and so on. We're speaking here on different multiply worlds. Everything is in Hebrew. But there is something over there, and it's something that I never can give it a name. It's more negative. A more negative feeling. That I know it when I speak in English. When I speak in English, there is this like returning to the rechem.
Womb.
Like I feel that I'm dealing with something pre-intellectual, before knowledge. So when I have those episodes of speaking English, I feel what's lacking when I speak that perfect Hebrew. Like, that something in the Hebrew, even though I'm totally in it, something yeshivot that is not in there. And it's not also in the English, because English is not an easy language for me. Okay? I don't speak it as fluent. I cannot write in it. My vocabulary is much narrow than in Hebrew. But that's my she'erit. And I grew up in Israel as not as an Israeli, like even though I grew up in Alon Shvut before the times where it was very common that people from America and Great Britain and Australia and South Africa came. The big majority was Israeli. You didn't find kids speaking to one and each other in English as today. If you go to Efrat, Gush Etzion, so the people that come from Anglo-Saxon families speak to one and each other in English. The English was totally only in the house. Between us, the brothers, we spoke English, Hebrewish. Outside of the house, Hebrew. So that gave me always a feeling of zarut, feeling that I'm not totally part of the system. in the language, even though I don't have any accent in Hebrew, and I have a good Brooklyn accent in English. Brooklyn accent, yeah, that's what's a Brooklyn accent? Yeah, it's a broken accent, but it's a Brooklyn accent. Even though my Hebrew was total Hebrew, Israeli Hebrew, this feeling that my house speaks in one language gave me an attitude for the teachings that I heard from the Rav Shagar, Rav Galut and Beit Yud and things like that. It started, I think, over there. A ambivalentiyut, like something that... And also, how narrow is it when you don't have that? How narrow I felt, even though not as from a power point of view, that I felt from my tzabar friends that their life is more narrow because they don't have this she'erit. So I'm sure that it had an influence. Again, not a straight influence, but something there. Yeah, of that object of that biography of two languages. Yeah, it had its influence.